But I just wanted to introduce yourself because you're a 2 times Ultimate Waterman champion. You are 5 times Master of the Ocean, and you won the ISA World Championship. Just if someone doesn't know Zane Schweitzer, that is something, And the question that popped up for me: did I miss a title, or I mean, I missed plenty probably, but these are your most famous ones, right?
It gets to a certain point where there's not enough space on the cabinet for the trophies, and the same thing with the profile too. Those are the ones that I'm most proud of. The events those events listed there are a few of my victories, but they're the ones I'm the most proud of because they're multi-sport events, or they're events that took place at big wave locations like Tahiti or Cloudbreak. And so, yeah, but those multi-sport events to me are what I really am motivated to stay sharp on the water with, the Ultimate Waterman, the Master of the Ocean. Within a period of a week, you're doing 4 to 8 sports, competing with, elite crew of watermen. And so it's a great way to push yourself and to, embrace humility of, that progression in each sport. Because no matter how great of a waterman you are, or a master of all trades you are, I think there's always that moment where you're met with this challenge that you have to overcome, or this obstacle that you need to bypass. And oftentimes, you learn from putting yourself in experience. So a good example for me is through that Ultimate Waterman event, the swimming division. The first year I did it, I didn't realize I wasn't a competitive swimmer. I've always known I was a good swimmer, and that that put a lot of light on that category for me. And so it reminded me that I need to sharpen my skills as a waterman, and it kind of put me in place, give me a humility check. And so I spent a lot of time after that event, sharpening my skills with back to the basics, swimming. And it's amazing how much it helped my overall training and results throughout the year. But at the end of the day, the next year I went from being second to last in the swimming division to second place overall. And so it's, being able to put yourself in competition or right in the midst of the experience is always a great way to embrace some humility, but also to know where you need to grow. And so those multi-sport events to me are so exciting.
That's awesome. I mean, the question that just popped up in my mind is, when you're going from being at the end of the pack, improving that much in one discipline, how much do you contribute to the training, and how much is also maybe the mindset?
Oh, it's so much about the, you have to have an even balance of mental, physical, even spiritual balance, because when you're doing a competition that's, say, let's use the Ultimate Waterman as example, as took place in New Zealand, and every day for 8 days straight, we competed in a different sport, in a different location. And so you have to imagine, no matter how good of an athlete you are, you have to let go of your common sleep schedule. You have to let go of your common diet. You have to let go of some of your basic routines for competition prep. And you have to really be open to whatever's thrown at you. And so you come into the event as prepared as possible, trained, and ready for whatever is thrown at you. But at the end of the day, when we arrive to New Zealand, we don't know what event's coming next. We don't know what event's first, and so depending on the conditions, we may have good waves and the surfing division is called on. And then from there, we have to collect ourselves and be able to get into the right physical, mental state to be able to go out there and do our best surfing, and so it's it's kind of more of a mental challenge than a physical. Of course, it's very physical demanding when you're competing on a world level multiple days in a row at no break, and you're in between that, you're jumping on airplanes and buses and trains and going from one place to another. And so it's your sleep is minimum, you're moving a lot. It's an exciting freaking event, man. It really is. And it really tests not only who you are as an athlete, but it tests who you are. It makes you really look deep inside yourself and ask yourself, why am I doing this at times? And really remind yourself what this is for. And, sometimes when you put yourself in those moments of being uncomfortable, being unsure, it's where the most magic things happen. It's where we discover new things about ourselves. We open up new chapters of our lives in a sense. And I've felt that for sure with every experience I've done at the Ultimate Waterman, because you have to be open and willing to adapt. You have to be ready to change, and you have to be fluid like the water, to be able to move around, but also go back and forth from one sport to another.
Did you have, it sounds a little bit like you had a couple of moments maybe, or one moment where you were about to give up or something like that, or is that my wrong perception?
Just pushing yourself hard. I mean, a good example is the underwater strength and endurance challenge. One of the disciplines is called underwater strength and endurance, and it's essentially 3 different categories in one. You swim 4 meters to the bottom of indoor pool, where you then hold a 50 kilogram weight, and you have to stay there for 45 seconds in place, 12 feet deep, and holding the 50 kilogram weight until you hear a buzzer go off. And once you hear the buzzer go off, then you have to run with the weights underwater across the Olympic-sized pool, put down the weights on a little sensor pad, and if you're off the sensor pad, you get time added to your score. Place the weights down onto the mat, swim 4 meters back up to the top, ring a bell, you hit the sensor, and then you freestyle swim back. So it's essentially breath holding, underwater rock running, and swimming. And so that event humbled me the first year, as I mentioned briefly earlier. And so coming back into this one, I was cold, but I didn't wear a wetsuit because I knew it would slow me down. And so I went through this whole hour and a half process of this competition, waiting around for the other competitors, in my Speedo, in cold ass water and cold temperature, instead of wearing my wetsuit like I did the year before, trying to be warm and be comfortable. And so that was the first thing that was like, okay, push past. Second thing was, going down there and holding your breath. There's many times where there's thoughts racing through my head, oh shit, I need to get air, damn, do this, do that. But you have to silence your thoughts, and you have to put yourself into that meditative state. And one of the ways that I do that is by, being confident in my preparation enough to not have to overthink my actions, and to be so confident in my preparations that I could, in a sense, let go. And one of the ways I do that is by, doing like a mantra in my head. And so when things get hard, or when things when I start to feel like not necessarily give up, or I need to push harder and not let go, I'll go through this mantra, and it's, it's a Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono. And you go through and you pretty much, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And I could be getting pounded on a 50-foot wave at Jaws, being underwater, trying to just relax as much as I can, going over and over. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Or I could be underwater with those 50 kilogram weights, trying to silence my thoughts and calm my body and do this best time as I can on the underwater strength and endurance. Same thing the whole time, just letting that be the only thing on my mind. And so, you know,
Wow.
I think everyone has a certain way of facing their what the challenges are thrown at them, and the Ultimate Waterman is definitely one of those events, because number one, it's not just one result, and so every result truly matters. Like as much as you could do, every little point counts, because at the end of the 8 to 10 day period, every point is added up. You know what I mean? Between all categories. And so, you know, you really have to be.
So there's no slack, basically.
Yep. Yeah. And so you have to push yourself, even in those categories you're not necessarily confident in. And I think that's probably the hardest part about the events, is the things we're good at come easy. We flow through it with little to less effort and output. Things that we're not so naturally gifted at, or things that we're not so confident in, they require more focus. They require more attention. They require more physical, you know, output. And so those are the things that become a challenge, is those things that, you know, throughout the week, all of a sudden you hit the surf ski discipline, which is like paddling on a canoe with no outrigger. In Hawaii, we paddle with outrigger canoes. There's like this things off the side that keeps you balanced, and you have a single-sided paddle. The Ultimate Waterman, they throw this surf ski at you that's so unbalanced and tippy. You have a double-sided paddle. And I pretty much trained and learned how to surf ski paddle because of this event. And that took so much out of me. But I couldn't let up. I couldn't, just because I was a kook at it and I was failing in this category, doesn't mean that I'm not going to win the next. Doesn't mean that I need every second of effort in this discipline right now, the one that I'm struggling in, you know? And so I think oftentimes we need to remember, you know, when we are struggling, when we are going through a hard time, you know, of course there's a time and a place to surrender and to fight, but you know, at the end of the day, we could keep going more than we think. You definitely never want to fight conditions, though, and that's not like what I'm trying to refer to here. It's not like getting hard because you're fighting the current or you're fighting the wind. Of course, you know, you're set on a path with the competition's course, but at the end of the day, you really have to just push past those mental barriers, right? As opposed to the physical ones, whether it be the waves, the wind, the current.